After all this time of not having the technology to go back, in the 1 year that many are starting to change their belief of the shape of our planet, and now they can conveniently go back. What timing is that? Considering the fact that we really cannot deny that over the last 50 years our technology and graphic design things have superiorly advanced. You know damn well it's gonna look real. You got Disney behind them. This is gonna be interesting to see.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
Placebo Beats Production.
What, in a few words, is the message you are carrying to the American people, Professor?
I will tell what this world looks like from 10 miles up. I will tell about the stratosphere.
Hey, have you ever wanted to fly between Perth, Australia and Buenos Aires, Argentina nonstop? Probably not, but it should make you mad to know that even if you did want to, you can't. That route would go almost directly over the South Pole, and with the exception of super specialized sightseeing flights, there aren't any commercial flights that us regulars can go on that fly anywhere near the pole. Why? Well, there are a few reasons.
Have you made daylight spread to the ends of the earth to bring an end to the night's wickedness?
Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Hello pilots, happy March of 2001, which is the year that it currently is, and one that will no doubt shape up great for the concept of airplanes. Have you ever wanted to fly over the poles? Well, it's not well, it's as easy as wait, there are more than 3. All you need to remember is one simple word. Skempt. Yes, with Skempt, flying over the poles is a breeze. Keen pilots may notice that the first letter of Skempt is S, which of course stands for special training. Polar flights will also necessitate the use of charts with your true heading, rather than traditional magnetic navigation. That's because the poles have an area of magnetic unreliability due to the presence of dark matter due to science.
Once again, Professor Piccard, the Belgian scientist, has ascended to heights never before reached by man to study the stratosphere, that unknown region which surrounds the Earth at a distance of more than 7 miles. Last year in May, he reached over 9 miles in height, but this time he was out to beat his own record. Accompanied by his assistant, Monsieur Max Cousins, a start was made at dawn from Dubendorf Aerodrome near Zurich.
But absolutely zero go anywhere close to the pole itself.
Who kept the sea inside its boundaries as it burst from the womb? Tell me if you know so much.
But what you see is black, and what you see down there is light.
Where does light come from, and where does darkness go?
Richard E. Byrd, first to blaze an air route to the North Pole, prepares for a similar flight over the bottom of the Earth. Among his supporters, the National Geographic Society. Pole below.
As the light approaches, the Earth takes shape like clay pressed beneath a seal. Tell me if you know so much.
Ready, set, go. Wernher von Braun was the leading figure in the development of rocket technology in Germany and a pioneer of the later US space program. A note here on the pronunciation of his name. Most Americans call him Wernher von Braun, but his actual name in German is Wernher von Braun. And in fact he was a baron, the middle part of his name containing the word Freiherr. So we have a Prussian aristocrat from a distinguished conservative family, involving himself in some of the worst crimes of the 20th century. An opportunist, his early work with rockets won him the approval of the Nazi Party, which he joined on the 20th of November 1937. Being a party member helped his career. Despite his post-war protestations that his membership of the party was some kind of formality, in fact, he received numerous letters of commendation for outstanding performance of duties during his time working under the Nazi Party. By 1937, von Braun was also an SS officer. Dr. Debus is similarly memorialized. The Kennedy Space Center has the Dr. Kurt H. Debus Conference Facility. Debus's NASA biography doesn't actually mention his Nazi past nor his SS membership, despite Debus wearing his SS officer's uniform daily, according to witnesses, whilst working on the V2 project. My issue is that in 2024, these unrepentant criminals are still so widely honored in the United States, which is ironic in an America so busily re-evaluating and reordering its own history, such as tearing down Confederate statues and so on. The Americans recognized that it was Nazi scientists, engineers, and technicians that had first developed the vehicles to enable man to enter space, and had followed that possession of such personnel would be vital for any nation intending to build both a successful ballistic missile program and a space program, as both the United States and the Soviet Union immediately embarked upon at the conclusion of World War II in 1945. A special intelligence operation was launched to find and recruit Hitler's rocket personnel called Operation Overcast, later changed to Paperclip. The University of Alabama at Huntsville has the Wernher von Braun Research Hall and a bust and 2 plaques on campus. No mention is made of von Braun's Nazi past or the slave labor. An astounding 1,600 German scientists, engineers and technicians were shipped to the US, in the process having their wartime service records bleached clean of involvement in very real war crimes. They settled into productive and lucrative work in well-funded US facilities, joined by their families. This photograph, taken in 1962 at the Cape Canaveral Missile Test Annex, shows President John F. Kennedy and Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson. Sitting beside them are 2 former SS officer war criminals. These Nazis' hands were drenched in blood in World War II, but today they are widely honored by NASA and many other US entities. Just 2 examples of America honoring Hitler's minions even in 2024. The V1 and V2 were constructed in secret factories that used vast armies of foreign forced laborers and slave labor from the concentration camp system. The men building the rockets knew all about the misery these workers suffered and the appallingly high death rates caused by this criminal system administered by very cruel SS officers. Far from being harmless, apolitical boffins who just happened to work for an evil regime, brilliant men, years ahead of their time, tragically harnessed to an evil empire, were actually fully paid up and often honored supporters of Hitler's Germany, who accepted senior positions in the SS and medals from the Nazi state, despite their post-war protestations of innocence. Von Braun was not only promoted by the Nazis, but he was also honored by them. He received the War Merit Cross, first class with swords, and later the very rare Knight's Cross of the War Merit Cross with swords. Von Braun and his buddies turned themselves over to the US Army in May 1945, knowing their value, and also giving the Americans 14 tons of V2 technical materials and documents, which, accompanied by the V2 missiles that the Americans captured, enabled the Americans to advance its own nuclear missile and space programs immeasurably. Dr. Arthur Rudolph leading the effort to develop the V-2 as a weapon to bombard London, and later a senior NASA official, personally approved of Kammler's use of slave labor to manufacture the weapons at the Mittelwerk underground factory. Von Braun himself visited the plant many times and saw for himself the conditions these slaves were laboring under, and he admitted that by 1944 deaths were indeed occurring. Von Braun and his team of Nazis would work at Huntsville, Alabama for 20 years.
In this particular case, this teamwork involved at first close cooperation between our own Army Ballistic Missile Agency in Huntsville, Alabama, and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Between the two of us, the vehicle was developed that carried the satellite into orbit.
Working closely with another old Nazi, Dr. Kurt Debus, first director of the Kennedy Space Center. Debus had worked closely with von Braun at Peenemünde during the war as the V-Weapons flight director. A former Sturmabteilung or SA man from 1933, Debus had joined the Allgemeine SS in 1940 and was already a Nazi Party member. He was engineer in charge of the V-2 test facility. Like von Braun, Debus was intimately aware of the slave labor atrocities, but ignored the suffering to further his own research and the goal of Hitler and the vengeance weapons program. So it is not surprising that both men were widely honored in other ways, and despite their Nazi pasts and their involvement in the Holocaust, remain honored to this day. Make what you will of this information that I've given you. Perhaps the brilliance of both von Braun, Debus, and the other 1,600 paperclip scientists and technicians, and what they achieved for the United States, outweighs the piles of dead bodies in Germany. Perhaps you think that honoring such men, regardless of their talents, is crass and insensitive today. I'm not kidding when I say that, as well as planting the stars and stripes in the barren lunar soil, Armstrong and Aldrin should also have planted the Nazi flag. For without a huge number of Nazis, it's doubtful that NASA could have made its great leap for mankind so swiftly. A giant leap for mankind made over a mountain of human corpses, completely forgotten today, and as well in 1969.
It's true.
What?
The Earth is flat.
Shaq, what are you talking about?
The Earth is flat.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's
yes,
not.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
As the light approaches, the Earth takes shape like clay pressed beneath a sea. It is robed in brilliant colors.
What were you taught in school in elementary?
I was taught in school that the Earth was flat.
Tell me if you know so much.
And incidentally, von Braun and Debus are not the only fully paid up Nazis and former SS officers proudly honored by the United States today, but they are perhaps the most famous.
We all were deceived. We all had the spinning ball put in our classroom from the time we were little wee tots that says on the bottom, not for educational purposes.
Are there still people who say that the Earth is flat? Yes, there are.
Thanks a lot for searching that out. I appreciate that. Fisherman in the box. Fisherman in a box.
I do not fear what people think, especially about what the Bible says.